The rain poured mercilessly that afternoon, as if the heavens themselves mourned alongside her. Clara stood at the back of the grand church, clutching her baby close. Her husband's casket sat at the altar, surrounded by flowers so white lilies, his favorite. The air smelled of incense and sorrow. Yet, even in death, her husband's family couldn't hide their contempt for her. She wasn't one of them and never had been. They had made that clear since the day she married Daniel, their only son. To them, she was a waitress, a girl from nowhere who had stolen their boy. But Daniel never cared. He had loved her fiercely, promising her that no matter what, he'd always protect her. Now, he was gonna get taken in a car crash that left her world shattered and silent. When the service ended, Clara waited quietly as people offered condolences she could barely hear. Her baby, Noah, whimpered in her arms. She rocked him gently, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart, Mommy's here." She was about to approach the casket for a final goodbye when Daniel's mother suddenly appeared in front of her, face cold as marble. "You've done enough," she hissed. "You don't belong here." Clara's voice trembled. "He was my husband." "Not anymore. You took everything from him, his life, his choices, his future. Now, get out." The woman turned to the ushers and snapped, "Remove her." Before Clara could protest, two men took her by the arms. She tried to resist, begging, pleading, but the sound of her baby's cries drowned out her words. People stared, some shocked, others whispering, but no one stepped forward. They dragged her out of the church, her shoes scraping against the cold marble floor, her heart breaking with every step. Outside, she collapsed onto the wet pavement, soaked and trembling. Noah's cries echoed in the rain. She held him close, sobbing, "I'm so sorry, baby." Broken bar, "I'm so sorry." As the limousine carrying Daniel's coffin drove past, Clara's world went completely still. She had lost her husband, her dignity, her home, and now, her hope. For days, she lived in a tiny motel room, surviving on bread and milk, trying to find a way forward. She had no family, no job, and barely any money left. Daniel's family froze all the accounts, leaving her with nothing. Each night, she would whisper to Noah, "Daddy's watching over us. We'll be okay." But inside, she didn't believe it. Then one afternoon, a knock came at her motel door. Clara opened it cautiously to find a tall man in a suit standing in the rain. He looked to be in his 50s, his face kind but serious. "Mrs. Parker?" he asked gently. Clara nodded. "My name is Richard Hale. I was Daniel's employer." Her eyes widened. She remembered Daniel mentioning him, a real estate millionaire who had treated him like a son. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Richard said softly. "Daniel spoke about you often. He was proud of you." Clara's lips quivered. "They wouldn't even let me say goodbye." Richard's eyes darkened with anger. "I know. I was there." She looked down, embarrassed. "Yeah, broken bar. I have nowhere to go." Richard paused, then said, "That's going to change." He offered her a place to stay at one of his guest houses on the outskirts of town. Clara hesitated, afraid to trust again, but she saw something sincere in his eyes. She agreed, and by that evening, she and Noah had a roof over their heads again. Over the following weeks, Richard learned just how much Clara had suffered. He helped her find legal representation, and with time, she reclaimed the small inheritance Daniel had intended for her. But more than money, Richard gave her something she hadn't felt in a long time: dignity. He noticed how she spent her evenings baking and sketching little designs. One day, he suggested, "You're talented, Clara. Ever thought about opening a bakery?" She laughed bitterly. "With what money?" He smiled. "Consider it an investment." It wasn't easy. There were long nights, tears, moments of doubt. But Clara worked tirelessly, sometimes with Noah asleep in a crib behind the counter. Slowly, word spread. Her pastry, as soft, sweet, and comforting, brought warmth to people's hearts. A year later, Noah's bakery became one of the most beloved spots in town. People came not just for the food but for the story behind it. The woman who had been cast out of a church now stood strong, building a life with her own hands. One quiet morning, as Clara arranged flowers on a table, a familiar face walked in: Daniel's mother. Time had aged her, and her eyes held a glimmer of guilt. "I heard about what you've done," she said, voice trembling. "I was wrong, Clara. So very wrong." Clara looked at her for a long moment, then said softly, "Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it can heal the future." The older woman nodded, tears falling freely. She reached for Noah's tiny hand, and for the first time, Clara didn't pull away. Outside, the morning sun broke through the clouds. From being dragged out of a church to standing at the doorway of her own thriving bakery, Clara had found something far greater than pity or revenge. She had found peace. And as she looked toward the sky, she whispered, "We made it, Daniel. We really made it."